Welcome to Tech Smarter. My name is Abby Ritchie. I am the tech guru with the Smarter service. And we're here every Wednesday talking with the operators, the innovators, and the investors who are shaping the future of aging services. On today's episode, we're tackling a topic that is seriously reshaping the senior living industry. It's the rising expectations of a new generation of residents. So our conversation today, it isn't about what technology exists, but it's about how we can strategically use it to empower residents and staff and families. My guest today is a perfect person to guide us through this discussion. I've got Joe Velderman with us, and he has an incredible dual background. He served as VP of Innovation at Cypress Living, and he's now the Chief Strategy Officer at K4 Connect. And this unique perspective allows him to see the agetech ecosystem from both sides, from the providers as well as the innovators. So today we're going to dive in what he learned in real-world tech expectations from working with residents and families. And we're going to discuss some of the challenges of fragmented technology and how K4 Connect as a platform works to create a more integrated experience. So with that said, Joe, welcome to Tech Smarter. I am thrilled that you are here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Abby. It's a real privilege and honor for me to join you today. And I understand we're kind of celebrating a special milestone here with like a relaunch or second season of Tech Smarter. So congratulations. I feel really honored to be your first guest.
Thank you so much. You know, Joe and I have intersected at various conferences over the years. I've had the honor and the privilege of interviewing Joe before. So like you said in one of your recent emails, it's like we're getting the crew back together, and
Yeah.
that is exactly what we're doing. So thank you so much. For anyone who's new to Joe, could you please introduce yourself?
Well, sure. I guess the quick introduction is, I've been working in aging services and specifically aging services tech for going on 20 years. I think the first year I started working in this space was 2006. It's not something I set out to do as a kid or even as a college student, but I love the fact that aging services found me, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Like, it's just super rewarding career and super fulfilling work that we get to do. And so, it's a lot of fun for me every day. I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Yeah, so aging services found me too, and found me at a great time about 8 or 8 years ago, just helping older adults with their technology. It was so simple, so organic, and definitely a need that was not met in the industry. So, you know, I want to first talk about and lead the discussion first off into understanding today's residents, today's older adult, and the expectations that they have, because I know there's been a fundamental shift in their tech expectations. What we may have seen 7, 6, 5, and 5 years ago is really different than what we're seeing today. So, from a consumer standpoint, what are some of those differences?
Yeah, it's changing so rapidly right now. It's fascinating to me, right? And I think you're spot on, Abby. I think the expectations, the consumer choices, the preferences that are out there are wildly different than what we've seen across the industry for the last decade, right? And I think it's really indicative of this new wave of older adults that we're starting to see explore senior living options and make the choice to move in. I don't know if there's like a real definitive, like, you have to be in the boomer generation to have these new tech expectations or not. I think it has more to do with exposure to tech, maybe professionally. And I started running some math on it a few months ago. You know, today's 80-year-old was 65 15 years ago. And 15 years ago sounds like a long time ago, but when you start to think about all the tech that the world's been exposed to over the last like 15 or 20 years, you know, the iPhone, I think it came out in 2008, and
That's
we've had a
exactly
lot
what I
of
was thinking too. Yeah.
we've had a lot of tech advancement, you know, over the last 15 or 20 years. And so I think many of the residents that we're starting to see move into senior living communities today have an extension of technology that's just part of their everyday life, right? Like, they use their iPhone the same way that you and I use our iPhone to do things like pay bills online and buy coffee from Starbucks or shop at their favorite retailer, navigate with their car and stuff like that. And it's just more of a natural extension for them. But it goes beyond just like the phone too. Like, they have laptops, they have tablets, they have cars that require software updates. They have wearables.
Right.
They're used to streaming television instead of the old coax TV solutions that are out there. In many ways, I think it's not a lot different than the way that you and I live our lives. It's just different for senior living because we're so used to
Mhm.
that more traditional consumer that didn't grow up with a lot of the tech that you and I have grown up with. And now I think we're starting to see older adults who have grown up with that tech. And it's really influencing the expectations that they have too, beyond just like, hey, make sure I have good Wi-Fi and like good internet speed, right? And make sure that there's security. Like, I think there's a real expectation around some of the experiences that we're able to curate from a technology perspective for them. I think there's definitely an expectation that we're going to be able to use data and we're going to be able to leverage tech to take better care of them. And so it's really interesting how it's extending beyond just like give me fast Wi-Fi and give me a reliable internet connection. It's like, how are you using tech to help me live a more fulfilled, more wellness enabled, longer life if I move into your community, right? It's part of the decision making. It's not just about like how good is the food or what sort of amenities do you have at the community. It's like, okay, I'm gonna contribute a significant amount of my income every month to living at your community. What are you going to do for me to help me extend my life or help me live the best life that I can in the most fulfilled way, leveraging some tech, right? And so I
Right.
think it's like we didn't just raise the bar a little bit. The bar has been raised a lot for senior living providers.
It really has. It really has. And, when I look at it as this generational shift, I remember working with a client in a community who she was the newer version, like the newer residents to move in, definitely as like solid 10 years younger than who I was working with previously. And she had some different set of expectations and a
Hmm.
very different set of needs. Like you
Hmm.
mentioned, she was using spreadsheets. She had some questions with formulas, right? And in the past, that may have never come up. Or maybe they're wearing an Apple Watch now
Yeah,
and they wanted to integrate some of the Apple Watch physical aspects into a Mayo Clinic portal, for
yeah,
instance. So
yeah.
it's just like, this combination and the shift. But even still, and tell me what you think about this, even still, when you stop using technology as a professional, do you think that your skill level also stops at some point?
I don't know if your skill level stops necessarily. I think you're probably less inclined to keep up with the latest and greatest tech if you're not sort of required to use it professionally. Um, but I also think that there's a subset of the modern consumers that are out there that have like a passion for technology, right? Like I remember
Mhm.
during my time at Cypress, we moved in residents who just loved tech. We had people that were like, I bought a Tesla because it can drive itself, or I wear an
Right.
Apple Watch because it's giving me health insights, or I don't care that you have coax cable TV. I only stream everything, right? We had one resident move in at Cypress, and I was just absolutely blown away. Like he had like 30 devices that he brought with him that he wanted to put on the Wi-Fi, and like
Yeah.
he was a drone flight operator. He owned like a media company professionally, but he just loved tech, right? He had a server in his home, and he had like three different drones. And it was so funny. Like he told me a story one time. He loved to fly his drone to restaurants to see how many cars were in the parking lot to see if there was going to be a long wait at the restaurant or not, right?
Oh my
Like
gosh.
you can't tell me that you don't just love tech if you're flying a drone to a restaurant to see how many cars are in the parking lot to determine the wait time that you're going to have at the restaurant.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What kind of support did he need or require with that level of technology? And were you able to help him with it?
So it was a super sophisticated level of support that we had to provide to that type of person. It wasn't like, help me change the batteries in my remote or figure out like voice activation on my Alexa device or something like that. It was like, hey, I want to be able to access my server here at Cypress when I go visit my second home in Virginia, and I need to be able to get all my files on my laptop from my server that are here. So how can we create a hole in the firewall so I can get to all my stuff while I'm away from campus, right? It was I mean, really like next level stuff.
Yeah, that is so cool. You have to bring in the big guns for that, right?
I did, yeah, yeah. It's like, let me get our network administrator for that conversation.
Yeah, right, right. Because at the community level, when we're thinking about the type of technology that the residents typically need, would you say that it's typically like a tier one type of support that they're in need of?
Yeah, I think it's probably overwhelmingly, I'll say it's tier one, but then you do have those special circumstances where it's tier two or maybe even tier three, depending on how you kind of classify different support elements. But I think most organizations are kind of battling tier one stuff on the front line on a regular basis, like my TV's not working or my printer's not working, or basic blocking and tackling. But
Uh,
occasionally you get a curveball, right? Where it's like, hey,
yeah.
I got this new phone, I can't remember my password, and I need some real help with this. And then all of a sudden you're like becoming the Apple Genius bar in the field, and trying to figure out, how to get them back into their phone or something like that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what we're doing at the Smarter Service is, it's like a genius bar in your community and being there to answer those questions and then taking it from the broken. It's
Yeah.
broken, and now that that's fixed, how can you start using your technology your way? And what I absolutely admire about you, Joe, is that now that you have this full experience as an operator, as a provider, now you are in an innovator space. And so I want to talk now about bridging that gap with K4 Connect
Mhm.
and about being an innovator now in age tech. Do you feel like you're in your lane?
I totally do. I totally do. So I've been a customer of K4 Connect for close to 5 years during my time at Cypress. We rolled out the entire suite of K4 Connect platform and services, and and we really went into it, thinking that we wanted to offer a brand new level of convenience and concierge to our residents at the community by giving them, the ability to talk to their Alexa device and control their home, and you know set up routines and just experience a modern level of convenience and concierge, similar to like what you might experience at a nice hotel in a city like Las Vegas or New Orleans or something like that, right? But it was also elemental for us to figure out ways that we could capture some little insights from the home. Like we wanted to see like how often was the front door getting unlocked, and what was the temperature in the room, and how many times did the bathroom light come on in the middle of the night or what have you, right? Just little passive ways that we didn't feel like we were intruding from a privacy perspective on people's lives, but just ways that we could further enhance the services and experiences that we were able to provide by getting to know a little bit more about our residents, right? And that was extremely successful. But what really compelled me to make the transition and move to K4 was the K4 data platform. We call it Fusion OS, and there's nothing else like it, that I've ever found across the industry. It's I call it the great data aggregator of all things senior living data. Right? We have all these different point solutions that exist in the tech ecosystem in senior living, and they're all great data collectors, but none of them talk to each other. And what Fusion OS does is it allows all these different point solutions that we use to not only talk to each other, but it's collecting and centralizing all that data. And I just feel like this is so elemental for what we're trying to achieve from an operational perspective in providing right care at right time at the right place. We have to know like where our customers are at. We have to know where our consumers are at from a lot of different perspectives. And so being able to aggregate health data and IoT data and wearable data and point of sale data and engagement data gives us insights and new perspectives into things that we've never had before, without having to have like 17 Chrome tabs open at the same time. so that we can be more operationally efficient and more operationally effective in providing that right care, right place, right time. And then, we're in this super fun time as a world, as a society right now too, with the advent of artificial intelligence, right? Things are moving so fast in artificial intelligence. I couldn't possibly, begin to like give all of my thoughts on that. But this is an incredible new tool that I believe is going to be like as transformative to the way that the world works as like what electricity was in the early 1900s, right? Like I just think that, this is such a big tech shift for everybody. I see us needing, as senior living operators and providers, I see us being able to take advantage of that in really big ways if we can responsibly and securely position our institutional data to these tools. Like they're data hungry, right? These tools are craving more information in order to provide responses or, be good agents for us. And we have to be able to provide that data. And in order to do that, we need to have all of our data under ownership and in the same place. And so, what we're building at K4 with the Fusion OS platform is really what kind of gets me energized right now. And I think we've got an incredible solution that I wanted to go out and take that solution to more people so that they could experience it and really, be prepared for all the incredible things that are coming from an AI perspective.
I want to talk about that, but I also want to backtrack just a little bit and talk about your 5 years of experience working with K4 Connect and what were some of the findings that you saw and that really shook your expectations during that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So we launched K4 Connect in March 2022. March 23, 2022 was the exact date. And we had planned like a really big launch event for the campus, for the community. And I expected that we might get 65, maybe optimistically 75% of all of our residents to download and log into the app. And so we did the launch event. We had like a whole like Genius bar set up in the community. By the end of the day, we had 93% of our residents across the community download and log into the app. And so that exceeded my expectations right off the bat. I was like, hey, there's a real appetite for some sort of a digital engagement platform. We actually called it at Cypress, we called it our digital front door, right? Like, and we thought about it much the same way that like Starbucks thinks about their app, right? Like Starbucks has a great retail experience when you go in, but they also have a great digital experience for their customers to use, right? And so we wanted to provide that same, great digital experience beyond just the in-person experience at the community to augment the experience that residents have, but also keep them connected while they may be away from campus. And so that really exceeded my expectations. The adoption of the smart home technology also really exceeded my expectations. I mean, we did some very targeted focus group studies internally when we chose K4, obviously, and we knew going into the project that there was like 20% or so of the residents who were super excited about that. But there was also 20% or so of the residents who were like, no way, like I'm not taking the time to learn that. I'm trepidatious. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but I have trepidation about, privacy and stuff like that. And so I was kind of like unsure where that was going to land. Overwhelmingly though, like people really love the smart home technology, like the ability to control their home with their voice or their app, being able to ask Alexa questions about the community. And what was cool about K4 is that they had really great insights into that voice utilization. And so just before I departed Cypress, we were seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 9,000 voice interactions per week across our resident population, right? And
Amazing.
when you talk about 400-ish units, like that's a lot of time that people are spending talking to a digital voice AI assistant, right? And so it really validated for me that we had made the right decision and that it was something that residents really appreciated.
And was it through the K4 Connect platform that you were able to capture that exact data?
Yeah. So again, like Fusion really kind of serves as the central hub for everything in the K4 ecosystem. and K4 is really just like any other point solution or any other app that's out there, just like Point Click Care or any of the dining POS platforms or whatever. It's just a data collector, right? Fusion is where all that data is stored, and then we, K4 is able to serve up some really insightful intelligence and graphics about the utilization of their platform through that.
In my research and in some of the presentations I've done over the past couple of years, I've come to realize that with these platforms, sometimes only 10% are
Yeah,
being utilized within a community. And
yeah,
so oftentimes the community and the platforms themselves will ask us as a service provider to explain the features that are not being used and how people can put them to work. Is
yeah.
that a situation that Fusion or K4 is trying to address as well?
It is, and I think it's a temporary problem. Um, again, I think with this sort of newer wave of residents that we're starting to see explore senior living, this challenge goes away, right? Like, and I contextualize this in a very personal way by thinking about like my own parents, right? My
Mhm.
dad is going to be 72 this year. My mom will be 70 this year. Um, they have all this tech at their home already, right? And they
Mhm.
use their Alexas already. They've got the smart doorbell, the smart thermostat, all that kind of stuff. And so
Do they call you too to set that all up?
surprisingly, no, like,
Okay.
they've been able to figure out, a lot of it on their own. I do get the occasional like iPhone question or help me reset my password question or something like that.
Mhm.
But surprisingly, like they're pretty self-sufficient with that stuff, and so again, I think that, the education that we're having to provide, the training that we're having to provide today is something that's going to maybe carry on for the next 3 or 4 years, and it's something that, we're addressing from a K4 perspective, and we're super grateful to have partners like the Smarter Service who can help us, with that training and support effort. Um, but I think it's a little bit of a temporary problem too. I think again, a lot of the residents that we're going to see continue to explore senior living over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years are just going to have an expectation that like you already have this and I know how to use it and I just want it to work, right? It's like more like a utility service than anything else.
Yes, and yet even still, we find that things break down and they just need, a resident just needs a little bit of extra help
Sure. Sure.
to close that gap with, some type of human support.
Sure.
And and you think about all that the K4 Connect platform is able to do. What's the fundamental problem that it's solving?
Well, I think, there's a lot of really great resident engagement platforms out there, and we compete with, the likes of companies like Go Icon and um, Life Loop and others, and they're fantastic platforms, right? Um, I really think that the problem that we're setting out to solve, and it feels a little bit like we're rebuilding the airplane while it's flying right now, but I really feel like the problem that we're setting out to solve right now is how can we put a data platform to work for an operating community to centralize data, make sense of their data, get insights from their data, and prepare their organization for the use of artificial intelligence. But a byproduct of that is with all this incredible integration and interoperability that we have, we're able to create an unbelievable transactional experience inside of the K4 community engagement app, right? So the app is not just serving up information about what's on the menu or what events are happening or whether or not the mail's been delivered for the day. It's truly transactional. Like if you want to, make a table reservation in the app, if you want to order food to have it delivered to your room, if you want to make a transportation appointment, if you need to submit a work order for some support that you need in your room, all that is done through the app, right? And so because of the Fusion platform that we have, our resident engagement platform is immensely better and immensely stronger than it ever has been before because we're able to create that truly transactional experience without disrupting the operations of the community, right? Like you create a dining reservation or order food, the culinary team doesn't have to go into K Ford for that information because of the connection that we have. They're just using their point of sale system and they're doing whatever the point of sale system is telling them to do, like it always has. Same thing with like facilities or transportation or what have you. Um, we're, the interoperability is key for us to really be able to create that really rich transactional engagement solution for the residents that we serve at K4.
Exciting. That's really exciting. And
Yeah.
you mentioned just a little while ago the introducing AI into the formula here. How do you see that happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I said before, like AI is like it's still relatively new, right? And I know like you can't turn your head in any direction without seeing some headline about some new thing that AI can do or some new danger that AI introduces or whatever. It's like, the thing that's making headlines everywhere. I saw a great quote by an author that I follow, a guy by the name of Ethan Mollick, and he wrote a fantastic book on AI. He's a professor at Wharton, but he said like if all of the AI development that's happened over the last 3 years were to stop today, it would take our world about 5 to 7 years to really understand all of the capability that we have with AI, right? And so that's wild to me right off the bat, right? But then you think about where AI continues to develop, and I put this little graphic together here. Um, I think we're in like the second inning of this AI era right now. We have kind of learned what generative AI can do for us with tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or what have you. And now we're starting to see all of these companies say, now we have agentic AI where we can actually start to put agents to work for you. So it's not just informational anymore. It's like you want us to do things for you, we can do that, right?
Yep.
And I think based off of all of the research that I've done and the time that I've spent thinking about AI and what's going to continue to happen is we're going to see multimodal native intelligence happen. I think a really big step for senior living and aging services is going to be this idea that we can personalize and contextualize AI. We can create hyper personal healthcare plans, hyper personal experiences for the residents that we serve. We're already starting to see some things around reasoning and problem solving for things like strategic planning or deep financial insight or a myriad of things. But what happens when we take all of these agents and they start working together? And I call that like collective or swarm intelligence. I think that that's going to be really powerful too. Imagine like a whole army of AI agents that are all highly specialized in one thing, but they start working together all of a sudden, right? Um,
Yep.
and then ultimately, I see like the physical embodiment of AI too. And I know a lot of people get concerned about robotics, but I think it's coming, likely more in back of house situations, and then ultimately more in front of house situations. But imagine a physical robot that has the capability of artificial intelligence. Like it would be as good or better as a human, right? And so I think we're going to see a lot of development in this space continue to happen, and it will be
Mhm.
impactful for our whole society, our whole world. But I also really feel strongly that it's part of the recipe for how we solve some of the challenges that we face in aging services around
100%.
meeting how around
Yeah.
meeting consumer expectations, but also solving some of the big challenges that we have, specifically like the staffing challenge, the affordability challenge, the mid-market challenge. I think technology and specifically large language model AI can be a significant ingredient in that recipe.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. Like at some point, it's going to help solve some of those challenges in regards to the caregiver shortages and the staffing 100%. So,
Yeah.
as we conclude here today, I want to offer a key takeaway for anyone who's listening. And if there is one thing that you could advise an operator to focus on to prepare for the future, what would that be?
Well, I'm super excited about the data initiatives that we have going on at K4 right now, right? And having spent the last 20 years working in aging services tech, I've seen sort of different evolutions of technology in our space, right? And yeah, I remember early on helping organizations like expand workstations and servers and networks beyond like the finance department, right? And then it was like the rollout of enterprise applications with EHRs and CRM platforms and different software point solutions. Um, now I think we're at a point where it's like, okay, we've got good tech stacks at our senior living communities across the
Mhm.
industry. We have the infrastructure in place. We have all these great enterprise applications to drive workflow and collect data. It's like, now what do we do with all this data, right? And to me, it's like we're sitting on a gold mine of information. We just need to recognize the value that it plays in our day-to-day operations. But if we can make sense of all the data that we have, we can do a lot of incredible things. We can start to solve big challenges around staffing. We can, solve big challenges around affordability. We can create efficiencies, but we can also serve our customers better, right? By just knowing them better, by having access to all of that data and knowing them better, we can serve them better, and we can start to meet these evolving consumer expectations that we started talking about at the top of the hour here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Joe, as we wrap up here, first, I just want to thank you for being with us. And second, how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
Well, I think I should say thank you to you because this has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciated being a part of your of the discussion with you today. I would love to stay connected with folks on LinkedIn. I think we've got a little crawler on the bottom of the screen there. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, you can search for my name, Joe Velderman, or you can follow that link on the bottom of the screen there. And I would love to get connected with you and keep the conversation going.
100%. Thank you so much for being with us. I know I'll see you soon at the next conference.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are joining us either today or a later day, thank you for your participation. And we will see you right back here next week.